The hiss of the espresso machine was Elena Rodriguez's morning soundtrack. At precisely 5:45 a.m., she unlocked the front door of Grind Coffee in Portland's Pearl District, her movements fluid and efficient. She flipped chairs, prepped syrups, ran inventory. 8 months of this routine had kept her sharp, but under the radar, exactly how she needed it. Just another barista, blending oat milk lattes and avoiding questions. Her dark hair, always tied back, framed a face that smiled easily but revealed nothing. She remembered names, allergies, orders. Regulars like Mrs. Thompson noticed. "You must have a photographic memory," the elderly woman teased. "Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." "Lucky guess," Elena deflected, wiping the counter. Sophie Martinez arrived 10 minutes later, breathless from her bike ride, her smile genuine. "Morning, Elena." "Hey, Sophie," Elena replied. She liked Sophie. The girl reminded her of who she might have been in a different life, eager, hopeful, open. Elena admired her optimism but kept her own guard up. Jimmy, the owner, poked his head out of the back office. "Hey, I might need to hire more help," he said. "We're getting busier. You cool training someone soon?" Elena nodded, masking the twinge of anxiety. Change meant risk. More people. More eyes. The bell above the door chimed. Elena glanced instinctively. No threat. Just the usual morning crowd. Still, she noted everything. Body language, hand positioning, eye movement. Years of training didn't fade. She'd traded black ops for brown aprons, but hypervigilance was second nature. She turned back to the espresso machine, tamped the grounds with precise pressure. The hiss returned. Steam rose. She inhaled deeply, trying to believe in the peace of it. But peace, she knew, was always temporary. Outside, a sleek black Tesla parked. A man stepped out, laughing too loudly. The equilibrium was already shifting. The next morning, the peace shattered. Marcus Chun strutted in like he owned the block, designer sunglasses still on despite the dim interior. Behind him lumbered Tank, all muscle and menace, and Amber trailed, phone raised, live streaming her commentary. "This place is cute," Marcus said loudly, eyes sweeping the shop before locking onto Sophie. "Very inclusive." Amber giggled. Tank smirked. Elena stiffened behind the counter. Her instincts screamed. Predators. The dynamic was too familiar. Dominant male, silent enforcer, enabling witness. "What can I get you?" Sophie asked, voice tight. "A smile for starters," Marcus replied, leaning over the counter. Elena stepped in subtly, placing herself between them. "Welcome to Grind. Ready to order?" she said evenly. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Barista with bite." "I like it." Tank blocked the line. Customers hesitated. Jimmy was nowhere to be found. Over the next week, Marcus returned daily, his crew louder, more invasive. Comments became personal. Tank accidentally brushed past Sophie too often. Amber laughed and filmed. Elena observed everything, entry times, seating choices, even Marcus's subtle power plays. She tracked patterns like an op, noting their escalation. When Marcus snapped an unauthorized photo of Sophie, Elena brushed past, palmed his phone, and erased it before he noticed. "Where'd my pic go?" Marcus muttered. "Maybe the cloud ate it," Elena said coolly. That night, she sat alone, reviewing surveillance footage she discreetly copied. Patterns, behaviors, threat levels. This wasn't casual cruelty, it was a hunt. And they had picked the wrong prey, but acting too soon meant exposure. Waiting meant danger. Elena breathed deep, steadied her hands, and opened a private folder on her encrypted laptop. She hadn't run an operation in 2 years, but some instincts never died. They were awake now. The line was crossed on a rainy Thursday. Sophie arrived at the shop pale and trembling, clutching her tote bag like a shield. "He was at my school," she whispered to Elena during prep. "Marcus, he followed me after class. Said he could protect me if I gave him my number. He knows. My major, my schedule." Elena went still. Her heartbeat slowed, her breathing leveled. "Operational mode. Did he touch you?" she asked. "No, but it felt like a threat." That night, Elena sat in her apartment, files spread out like a war map. Using burner emails and cloaked searches, she dug into Marcus Chun, multiple sexual harassment. Settlements, Undiaz, a pattern. Tank's assault charge from 2 years ago. Amber's social media trail of filmed humiliation disguised as pranks. They weren't amateurs, they were practiced predators. But Elena wasn't civilian anymore. The next shift, she arrived early and installed a new blind spot camera above the stockroom. A few carefully worded texts to an old contact gave her a deeper background on Marcus. What she learned chilled her. He wasn't just following Sophie. He had paid someone to pull her school file. He had her address. "You should stay with a friend," Elena told Sophie quietly. Sophie didn't argue. It was Friday afternoon when Marcus pushed too far. The shop buzzed with the post-lunch lull. Sophie went into the back to restock milk. Moments later, Elena noticed the security feed glitch a flicker in the hallway camera. Her gut clenched. She darted to the monitor. Marcus had followed Sophie. Tank stood near the hall entrance, arms folded. Elena moved. Within seconds, she was through the door and behind Tank. One quick tap to the radial nerve, and he crumpled against the wall, stunned. In the stockroom, Marcus cornered Sophie, one hand on the shelf beside her head. "Back away," Elena ordered. Marcus turned. "This doesn't concern you." "It does now." He lunged. She stepped aside, grabbed his wrist, twisted, and redirected his momentum into the wall. A dull thud. No marks. No broken bones. Just pain and humiliation. Jimmy burst in, eyes wide. "They're banned," Elena said. For once, he didn't hesitate. "Get out, now." They left, but the damage was done. Customers had seen. Sophie had seen. Even Mrs. Thompson stood frozen, coffee in hand, eyes locked on Elena. "You moved like a soldier," she said softly. Elena turned away. Too late to hide. In the days that followed, Elena felt the walls closing in. Detective Sarah Walsh showed up on Monday. Cool, methodical, sharp-eyed. "Ms. Rodriguez, I'd like to ask about the incident." "I just acted on instinct," Elena said. "That was more than instinct," Walsh replied. "What's your background?" "Military," Elena offered. "Supply logistics." It wasn't a lie. Just not the whole truth. Walsh didn't press, but Elena saw it in her eyes. Suspicion. Recognition. At home, Elena. Swept her apartment for bugs. She changed her digital footprint, updated safehouse options, checked in on Sophie daily. But one thing was clear. She was exposed. The CIA wouldn't tolerate visibility. Her instincts were right. On Tuesday night, she spotted a man across the street who didn't fit. Wrong stance, wrong shoes. No umbrella in the rain. Watching. She wasn't just risking her safety now. If Marcus dug deeper, others would come. She debated running, packing a bag and disappearing again. But she looked at the shop, at Sophie, at the neighborhood kids who waved when she walked by, at Mrs. Thompson's quiet nod of approval. She couldn't leave, not yet. The next day, she began preparing. Operational. Recon. Exit plans. Traps. Precautionary messages to Ghost, her old handler. The final straw came from Sophie. He messaged me again. A video of me walking to class. No caption, just watching. Elena felt something settle inside her. Not anger, clarity. She taught Sophie basic defense after hours. Movement. Awareness. confidence. "You're not helpless," she said. "Don't let fear tell you otherwise." That night, Elena rewatched old training footage. She cleaned her weapons, then locked them back in a box, not for use, just in case. She didn't need to kill. She needed to win, quietly, precisely, with witnesses. Let them come. She was done hiding. Monday morning at Grind felt quieter than usual, not from lack of customers, but from the weight in the air. Word of the incident had spread. Marcus hadn't returned, but his presence lingered like smoke in the walls. Elena served a cappuccino, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Every move was careful now. She knew she had drawn attention. Sophie noticed too. "Are you okay?" the younger woman asked as they cleaned up the milk station. "I'm fine," Elena replied, then paused. "No, not really. But I'll manage." That afternoon, Detective Walsh came back. Her demeanor was professional, but her eyes betrayed deeper interest. "Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Your military record, I couldn't verify it through standard channels," Walsh said, sitting across from Elena during a slow hour. "Your discharge papers are oddly redacted. I was attached to a joint command post in Eastern Europe," Elena replied smoothly. "We handled logistics under special protocols. I signed a lot of NDAs." "Right," Walsh said, unconvinced. "Well, I appreciate your cooperation, for now." Walsh left, but Elena knew the clock had started ticking. That night, she found a burner phone in her mailbox. Only one person had the protocol for that dead drop. She activated it. A familiar voice came through, calm, clipped, and cold. "You compromised your cover." "Hello to you too, Ghost," Elena said. "They know you're alive. 2 assets from the Vetrovi ring are in Seattle. They're moving. You have 48 hours to vanish." "Not this time." A long pause. "You've grown attached." "That's dangerous. So is hiding while people suffer. You're risking a lot for civilians. They're not civilians to me." Ghost sighed. "Then you better finish what you started." Fast. Marcus had been busy too. Enraged by the humiliation, he combed the internet for any trace of Elena. He hired a private investigator. One of his startup buddies hacked databases, unearthing inconsistencies in her employment record. "She's not who she says she is," Marcus told Tank, pacing his condo. "And when I find out who she really is, she regret messing with me." He didn't know that someone else had been listening. Amber, seated silently on the couch, her phone resting on her thigh, recording. Her fingers trembled. The footage she had of Sophie flinching, Elena intervening, and Marcus's growing aggression, suddenly, it wasn't content. It was evidence. She remembered Elena's face in the coffee shop. Calm, clear, unafraid. Amber wasn't proud of what she'd filmed. But maybe she could help fix it. At the shop, Mrs. Thompson had picked up on the shift. "That young man isn't done with you," she warned Elena gently. "He's the type who can't stand losing." Elena gave a faint smile. "I'm counting on it." She pulled Jimmy aside that evening. "Marcus might come back, and it might get worse. If it does, I need you to stay calm and call Walsh, not just 911. Her." Jimmy nodded, a little paler than usual. "Why do I feel like I'm part of something bigger than coffee?" "Because you are," Elena said. "And you have a choice. You can pretend this isn't happening, or you can stand with us." Jimmy looked toward Sophie, who was restocking pastries, earbuds in. "Then I'm with you." Marcus returned Thursday morning, alone, no Tank, no Amber. Elena spotted him the moment he stepped inside, wearing arrogance like a tailored suit. "You going to assault me again?" he asked, loudly enough for other customers to hear. "Or just glare at me with your psycho eyes?" Elena didn't respond. She signaled to Jimmy, who started recording with his phone. "I have questions," Marcus continued. stepping closer to the counter. Like where you learn to disarm a man in a second. Or how you vanished from the system 5 years ago. Sophie emerged from the back, eyes wide. "You need to leave, Elena," said evenly. "Not until I get answers." Elena lowered her voice. "If you stay, you'll get them. But they won't help you." Walsh entered through the front door, right on cue. She didn't speak, just observed. Marcus turned. "What is this?" "You set me up?" "No," Walsh replied. "You set yourself up. We've had 3 harassment complaints, and I've seen footage, multiple times. Today makes 4. Amber's voice chimed in from the doorway. "And I have more. Months of it." Marcus froze. Amber held up her phone. "Don't call me again," she said. For the first time, Marcus looked uncertain. Tank had disappeared. Amber flipped. And now? The police were involved. He turned to leave. Walsh stepped in front of him. "You're not going anywhere. We have some questions." She nodded at Elena, a flicker of respect passing between them. The shop exhaled. Elena turned to Sophie. "It's not over." Sophie nodded. "But we're not alone anymore." Elena smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in a long while. The clouds hung low over Portland the next morning, mirroring the weight Elena felt in her chest. The calm in the shop after Marcus's arrest was fragile, temporary. She knew it. So did Ghost. The burner phone lit up again at dawn. "They're here. One in Seattle, one in Vancouver. You've got maybe 12 hours. They're professionals, not the kind who miss." "Then we make sure they do," Elena replied. She hung up. She walked to the shop early, checking her tail the entire way. There was none, yet. Inside grind, she brewed coffee like usual, her hands steady, mind calculating. Jimmy arrived 30 minutes later, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "You okay?" he asked. "Not yet," she said, "but I will be." By noon, Elena had set the pieces in motion. She quietly called Sophie into the back. "There's something I need you to know," Elena began. "Everything I told you before about the military? It was true, but not the whole truth. I wasn't logistics. I was covert, CIA, operative. I disappeared because I exposed corruption inside the agency. The deal was, I stay silent, I stay safe. But Marcus, he broke that balance." Sophie stared, processing. "You saved me," she finally said. "Not just at the shop, you gave me strength. So, what now?" "Now we prepare." Elena outlined a basic safety plan for Sophie. Where to go, what to do. She gave her a flash drive. "What's on this?" "Proof. If something happens to me, give it to Detective Walsh. She know what to do." "Nothing's going to happen to you." Elena smiled faintly. "That's the goal." Later that evening, Elena felt it. 2 men at a corner table, unremarkable, too unremarkable. One stirred a cup that had gone cold. The other never removed his coat. They weren't interested in coffee. She approached with a tray of samples. Her tone was light, her smile practiced. "Try our new lavender blend, on the house." One man smiled politely. The other didn't look up. His posture told her everything. They knew. Elena returned to the back room. She tapped a sequence into a keypad hidden inside the supply closet. A drawer opened. Inside, a flashbang, a tracking device, 2 burner phones, and a Sig Sauer with a full mag. She closed it. Not yet. Ghost arrived at dusk. "You look well," Elena said as he entered through the alley door, his gray suit immaculate. "You look exposed," he replied. "You came. I shouldn't have, but I owed you. What do they want?" "Retribution. You exposed one of their laundering pipelines. When you vanished, they lost millions. Now they want closure." "Then let's give them closure." Ghost raised an eyebrow. "You really want to stay? I have people now. Not assets. People. I'm done running." He regarded her, then nodded. Then we do it my way, one night. Controlled space, witnesses, no guns unless absolutely necessary. Agreed. The trap was simple. Elena closed early, claiming a staff meeting. Jimmy stayed behind the counter, ready to activate a silent alarm. Sophie and Alex Rivera waited upstairs, documenting everything with encrypted feeds. Mrs. Thompson volunteered to stay too. Someone has to keep the grown-ups honest, she said. With a wink, at 8:13 p.m., the door opened. The two men entered again, alone this time. They moved with precision, taking the same table. One reached under his jacket. Elena stepped out. "You don't want to do that," she said evenly. "Ms. Rodriguez," the older one replied. "Or should we say, Agent Aurora? That name's dead. You should be too, if you think this is a clean extraction." He looked around. "You think these people will protect you?" "No, but they'll witness you fall. And there's a difference." Ghost stepped from the shadows. "Two options," he said. "Walk out now and disappear. Or stay, and every camera in this place streams to 5 different agencies." The men hesitated. Elena watched their eyes. They weighted mission versus exposure. Finally, the younger one spoke. "We were told to bring back proof." "Then tell them you saw a ghost," Elena said, "and that she has nothing left to lose." The standoff broke. They left reluctantly. Ghost followed them out, ensuring the tale ended outside city limits. Back inside, the shop exhaled. Again. Elena sat, her body still, her mind racing. She had survived. But the cost was coming due. The next morning, Walsh returned. She'd watch the footage. She'd read the files. "You're not just some ex-soldier," she said. "You're a buried secret." "I was," Elena admitted. "Until people needed me again." Walsh sat across from her, expression unreadable. "You know I should report this." "You could. Or you could help me protect what we built here." Walsh tapped a finger on the table. "I lost a sister to a man like Marcus," she said. "I always wondered if someone like you had been there. Maybe she'd still be alive." They sat in silence. Finally, Walsh nodded. "Then let's make this official. I want you to consult on civilian defense, community protection programs. You stay here, quietly, legally, and my past, it stays buried. As long as you stay clean." Elena exhaled. For the first time, it didn't feel like a performance. "Deal." Sophie came out from the back. "Everything okay?" Elena looked around the shop, the warmth, the smell of coffee, the people. "Yeah," she said. "Everything's finally okay." But she stayed alert, always, because peace was something you had to earn every day. Rain pelted. The windows of grind coffee the next evening, tapping out a tense rhythm that matched the hum beneath Elena's skin. She moved through the shop with purpose, aligning chairs, checking corners, memorizing sight lines. Everything had been prepared for what came next. Cameras installed, witnesses recruited, exits unlocked. Tonight, Elena Rodriguez would stop hiding. "You sure about this?" Ghost asked from the doorway, arms crossed. "I'm done being the hunted." "You're sure they'll come?" "Marcus always wants control. He lost it here. He'll need to reclaim it. And I'll be waiting." Ghost studied her face for a beat, then nodded. "No guns. No blood. That's the plan." At 7:46 p.m., the bell over the door jingled. Marcus Chun entered like a prince returning to his court, wearing a smug grin and a tailored coat soaked at the shoulders. Beside him, Tank followed, less certain, his eyes scanning. Amber trailed behind, but her camera wasn't rolling. "Evening, ladies," Marcus said loudly, looking at Sophie behind the counter. "Miss me?" Sophie froze, then looked toward Elena. "You're not welcome here," Elena said, emerging from the back room, apron off, stance centered. Marcus clapped slowly. You think banning me means anything? Newsflash, people like me don't get banned. We buy our way back in. Not this time. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. I know who you are. I know what you did. I even know who you used to work for. You think you're safe now. You think a new name makes you untouchable? Elena didn't flinch. You're outnumbered and being watched. Jimmy stepped out of the office with his phone. Everything's recording. Amber stepped forward. I've already sent backup footage to Walsh and Alex. Try anything, and your brand of toxic nonsense goes public. Marcus laughed, but his eyes flickered toward Tank. Elena watched him falter, the crack showing. She turned on me, he hissed. Figures. She was never strong enough for this. Amber folded her arms. No, I just stopped being afraid. Let's take this outside, Marcus said to Elena, challenging her. She tilted her head. No need. Tank moved then, stepping toward the counter. But Elena was faster. She turned, stepped into his path, and sidestepped. A fluid redirection of weight sent him crashing into a display table. Gasps from customers filled the air. You really want to do this? Elena asked Marcus, stepping between him and Sophie. You think you've won? This is harassment now? Self-defense? You laid hands on my associate. That's assault. You recorded it, Jimmy said, holding up his phone. Mrs. Thompson stood from her seat near the window. So did I, Marcus hesitated. Anger flickered in his jaw, but something else simmered beneath panic. The show of force hadn't worked. The intimidation had failed. Elena stepped closer. You want to talk about violence? About power? Let's talk about what you've done. How many people have you cornered like Sophie? How many times did you threaten women who couldn't fight back? I never touched anyone. Predators never think they do. But power isn't just physical. You manipulated. You stalked. You tried to destroy lives because it made you feel bigger. You're not a hero, he spat. You're a killer. Elena's voice dropped to a whisper. I used to be. Now I just protect people from men like you. A door opened. Detective Walsh entered, uniformed officers behind her. Mr. Chun, she said. We have new testimony. Amber Sinclair has turned over video documentation of multiple harassment incidents. Also, there are reports you hired someone to obtain personal information on Miss Martinez. That's stalking, and we have the receipts. Marcus's face turned white. Walsh nodded toward the officers. You're under arrest. Tank rose slowly. I didn't know she was CIA or whatever, he muttered. He said we were just messing around. You knew enough, Elena said. The handcuffs clicked. Marcus locked eyes with Elena as they took him away. This isn't over. Elena smiled softly. It is for you. The shop buzzed in the aftermath. Customers stayed, murmuring support. Sophie wept quietly behind the espresso machine, and Elena stood beside her, steady. We did it, Sophie whispered. No, Elena said. You did. You stood up. You didn't let them win. Sophie gripped her hand tightly. Alex Rivera entered moments later, already uploading clips to a private server. It's trending. Amber's footage. Your defense. Walsh's arrest footage. Marcus is getting dragged online. Elena nodded. Let it happen. Maybe it helps someone else speak up. Later that night, as the shop emptied, Ghost reappeared in the alley. Well played, he said. All by the book. You're safe, for now. But you've made enemies. High ones. Then let them come. They'll find someone waiting. He gave her a long look. You could still disappear. Start over, again. No, I think I finally started something worth finishing. Walsh wants to talk about consulting. You sure that's a good idea? It's the only one that feels right. He stepped into the shadows. Then you better stay sharp. Peace doesn't last. I know, Elena said, but I do. As the final chairs were stacked, Sophie lingered. You okay staying in Portland? Yeah, Elena said. This city has good coffee. Sophie laughed, tears still in her eyes. You'll make a good teacher. Elena looked around the shop. The warmth, the light, the community. Her sanctuary had become her battleground, and now her future. Maybe, she said. Maybe it's time to stop hiding and start helping. The storm outside had passed. The clouds parted, letting moonlight spill through the windows. Elena stood still for a moment, listening to the hum of the espresso machine, the whisper of Sophie cleaning, the comfort of ordinary life resuming. Tomorrow she'd meet with Walsh, begin training modules, create safety networks, establish something lasting. But tonight, she allowed herself something rare, rest, because true strength wasn't in staying hidden. It was in choosing to stand. And Elena Rodriguez had never stood taller. The scent of fresh espresso hung in the air like a promise. Sunlight filtered through the wide windows of grind coffee, casting long golden rays across polished countertops. And warm wood tones. The air was different now, lighter, safer. As if the shop itself had exhaled. Elena Rodriguez stood behind the counter, no longer hiding, no longer watching every movement for threat. She still noticed details, the exact time the door opened, the rhythm of footsteps, the flicker of hesitation in a stranger's body language. But now, it was a skill in service to her new purpose, not a relic of survival. Sophie wiped down the bakery case, humming softly. You're early, she said to Elena. Old habits. Besides, I like the quiet. Sophie smirked. You always liked the quiet. Yeah, Elena agreed. But now I don't mind the noise either. Detective Walsh entered with a folder tucked under her arm, dressed in plain clothes. She smiled at Sophie, nodded to Elena, and made her way to their usual back table. Elena followed, leaving Sophie to handle the early customers with practiced confidence. You ready for this? Walsh asked. I am. The folder contained paperwork clearance protocols, background vetting, forms, official documentation to bring Elena into the fold as a civilian consultant on community safety initiatives. It was the first real step toward a legitimate public life. You understand this will put your name in federal systems again, Walsh said, voice low. I can help shield you, but you won't be invisible. I don't need to be, Elena replied. I need to be useful. They shook hands. Just like that, Elena was no longer a fugitive, no longer a ghost. Word of Marcus Chun's arrest had spread far beyond Portland. With Amber's footage circulating and other victims stepping forward, national media picked up the story. Articles with headlines like Startup Star Exposed for Serial Harassment and Social Media Girlfriend Turns Whistleblower sparked debates and support campaigns. Amber went quiet online for a while but re-emerged with a video post that went viral for all the right reasons. In it, she spoke honestly about being complicit, being afraid, and finally choosing to do the right thing. She credited Elena and Sophie for helping her see the difference between influence and integrity. Sophie, meanwhile, found her voice. She became a guest speaker for campus organizations focused on workplace harassment. Alex Rivera helped her publish an article in the college paper titled The Cost of Staying Quiet. She never mentioned Elena by name, but everyone who read it understood the unspoken hero in the background. The coffee shop itself became a kind of symbol. More young women applied for jobs. Jimmy added a poster board on the wall for local resources. Mental health support, self-defense classes, anti-harassment hotlines. The tone of the shop shifted from cozy to empowered, still welcoming, still warm, but now with backbone. Elena began hosting early morning sessions for women in the neighborhood, teaching practical safety and confidence techniques. The first class had 4 people. By the end of the month, there were 15. You're really doing it, Ghost said one evening as he sat by the window, sipping black coffee. You built something, with help. Doesn't make it less impressive, You were never the type to sit still. I'm not sitting still. I'm just staying in one place. You'll still need to be careful. The people you crossed won't forget. Let them remember. I'm not afraid of being seen anymore. Ghost nodded. Then maybe you finally outrun your past. Not by hiding, but by transforming it. He left before the rush hit. Elena watched him go, then returned to the counter. A little girl smiled shyly and handed her a crumpled dollar for a hot chocolate. Elena accepted it with a warmth that surprised her. Months passed. Seasons changed. Elena's routine deepened. She volunteered part-time with a non-profit that helped former military members transition to civilian life. She even worked with Walsh on building a training module for police departments handling harassment and intimidation cases. Each night, she still trained alone in her apartment, not for war, for peace of mind. One day, Sophie arrived holding a letter. It came for you, she said. No return address. Elena opened it carefully. Inside was a photo herself, much younger, standing in a crowd of agents at Langley. Someone had circled her head in red ink. The message on the back was simple: still watching. Elena folded the photo and placed it in a drawer. Her hand trembled for only a second. Bad news? Sophie asked. Just the past, Elena replied. It hasn't caught up. It just waved. You want me to call Walsh? No, not yet. Let's keep it quiet, but keep your eyes open. Always do. Sophie was more than ready now, confident, strong, and Elena knew that whatever came next, she wouldn't face it alone. That evening, she stood at the back of the coffee shop after close, watching Sophie and Alex stack chairs and laugh over something she didn't catch. Jimmy was counting the till. Mrs. Thompson had left cookies again, wrapped in a cloth napkin. It was imperfect. It was normal. It was enough. Elena walked to the window, looked out at the city, the life she'd claimed, the identity she'd reshaped not by cutting ties to her past, but by forging new ones. Her phone buzzed. A message from Walsh. We start our first city training next week. You ready? Elena typed back. I was born ready. Just needed reminding. She turned out the lights, locked the door, walked into the night, her shadow stretching long behind her. And for the first time, it didn't follow her like a threat. It followed like a legacy, a life reclaimed, a protector reborn. The barista with secrets no longer needed to hide. She just needed to stand, and she did, every day. Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch, and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.